And good afternoon, good evening, and welcome so much to the dozen or so of you that are currently listening in to this exclusive Discord conversation on the Angry Astronaut. This is a free and open discussion. We now have 13 people listening in. I really do appreciate it. I am deeply moved by the number of people who participate in what I do. As I say, thank you so much for that. And, this is primarily for you guys, primarily an opportunity for you guys to have a bit more of an intimate conversation as opposed to, the colossal number of people that tend to show up in chat, that sort of thing during my normal live streams, a way for us to, enjoy some time together and that sort of thing. At the same time, and once again, I may mention this a couple of times as more people come on, we do have a raffle. Every one of you has one ticket invested automatically. And if you want more tickets, you can contribute via PayPal rather. It's in all of my videos, my PayPal link. I'll be able to tell on my email if anybody's entering. You get one additional ticket for every US dollar spent. You don't have to. You have a chance to win whether you do it or not. This is just a method to raise a little money for me on my next trip, which is hopefully going to be to California to see the Virgin Orbit launch and to bring that to you live. But that is secondary. The primary reason is for you guys to have an opportunity to speak in a more intimate setting, to ask many questions that you may like. If this goes well, if this is something that everybody likes, then we're going to do it on a regular basis and have some much more specific topics in mind. And once again, we've got 16 people online at this point. Thank you so much for joining in. I really, really appreciate it. I am deeply moved that I have the supporters that I do. It really does blow my mind. So right now, and the prize, by the way, is a random, or rather an item of your choice from Teespring, whichever item you want, and it's personally signed by me. So this will be the first personally signed item that I have ever offered. So everybody's entered in, and you can increase your chances if you wish to. Okay, so now that I've said all of that, I am going to open the floor for questions because there is a lot going on in the world of space, certainly in the world of SpaceX. It seems unlikely that SN-15 is going to launch again, unfortunately, in spite of all of our hopes. And I think Elon himself was really hoping that SN-15 was going to be able to take off again, and that doesn't seem to be the case. But that doesn't necessarily need to be the point. And we have Fan who has jumped in. Go ahead, Fan.
Hey, Angry. Good to talk to you. I don't think I've ever talked to you before.
No, I don't believe that you have. Very good to meet you semi in person.
Yeah, semi, but we're there in spirit. Yeah, I think we got a lot going on here. I think some of the material you've covered lately has been really important for me to, keep up on things.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's always been my goal to broaden the scope of my content. It's one of the reasons why I release as much content as I do, because there's so much to talk about. For example, the whole space junk thing, even though that video has not done well at all, I feel that topic needs to be discussed. The whole Kessler syndrome is far too important to be ignored, and a number of European countries are working aggressively to try to solve that. So it needs to be covered. It needs to be reported on, regardless of whether it gets a lot of views or not. So, that's always kind of been the focus of my channel.
Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for everything that you do. Thanks very much. It means a lot to me, let me tell you. Did we have, or if you have any other questions, I'd be more than happy to take them. If not, I'd be happy to take another question or comment.
Well, I'll give you a comment. I think the space junk is a pretty important issue, and it's going to become more important. So even though it might not be popular, you got a lot of hits on it. It needs to be talked about now and probably a lot more in the future.
Yeah, I mean, it's currently running at less than 50% of one of my typical videos. So, you know, and that's happened every time I've released a video about space junk. I think the overall conclusion that people come to is that I'm going to start talking crap about Starlink and say that we shouldn't do it or something. When people start talking about space junk, so they don't even bother to click on it. But that's not my point at all. Starlink is well designed to avoid space junk and to avoid creating space junk. The real problem is all the uncontrolled space junk that we have up there. And if any of that were to hit a Starlink, you know, and if it's under 10 millimeters, it cannot be detected. And as a result, you know, we would have no idea if it was coming. It could disable one of the Starlinks and then turn it into a very large hazard. So these are the sorts of things that need to be discussed, not Starlink itself. All right. Any other topics? Hello. Is it Qatar, or I don't know how that should be pronounced.
Hi, how are you? It's Katiari.
Katiari. Okay. And whereabouts are you?
I'm in Miami, Florida. Angry.
Fantastic. I've been to Miami. Very fond of it. One of my favorite towns in the United States.
Yep, it is indeed. Hey, I have a question for you.
Sure.
What are your thoughts on ULA actually bidding for the second option of the lunar lander? Given the additional competition, I guess, that's coming up, and a lot of these providers are becoming vertically integrated, and also ULA has extensive research on that. Do you have any thoughts on them maybe bidding for it rather than becoming just a provider to some of these vendors?
Well, ULA was as far, you mean in terms of the HLS system?
Yes, the actual lander, not the launch, but
Yeah.
the lander.
Yeah, ULA was always a supporter of Dynetics on the HLS system. ULA was extremely angry and disappointed when the decision came down to go exclusively with SpaceX. I had a chance to talk to Kathy Larini over at Dynetics, and she put me in charge of ULA's communications manager at the time, and there was a great deal of discussed over at ULA. And so I think actually ULA's emphasis, if there is any, is to try to get Alpaca back into the mix. I think that's where that's where I would think their effort is, simply because that's where they've put their money and their research into that particular product. I can't really see them changing horses midstream or anything like that.
Understood. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you for participating. On. Hello, you're back.
Hi there. Hello. Yes, I'm back. Thank you for the opportunity to talk to you. Never talked
Of course.
with you in person. Well, obviously not in person, but never talked to you before, though. So very nice. If my English is a bit rough at some point, please excuse that.
Das ist kein Problem. Ich spreche nur ein bisschen Deutsch, but if there are any points where you feel you need to switch over to German, I'm more than happy to at least try to help.
Wow, das war sehr, 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 sehr gut. No, but I think I'll be comfortable in English. All right. I have more of a personal question. I've never,
Sure.
unfortunately, been able to see a rocket launch before. Like being living in Germany, I think the next launch site is probably the Soyuz launch site. So it's
Right.
quite far away for me.
Yes.
So I just
Very
want
far.
to ask you, what was your favorite rocket launch you maybe saw in person, and yeah, what story is behind that? For me, it was probably because I've only obviously seen them live. It was probably seeing SN8 leaving the launch pad. That was probably the coolest moment for me, and probably followed by SN15 actually landing.
It goes a lot further back with me. Wow, it goes all the way back to the early 1980s with the maiden launch of the Challenger. My uncle took me to see that up close and personal. The rumbling, and I mean, you could feel the vibrations of that straight through your body. It was an intense experience, to say the least. So yeah, even though SN15 was fantastic and it gave the impression that the rocket was hovering right over your head or something along those lines, it wasn't, but still it seems that way. That was very different, to have the rocket kind of maintain its position and then come back down. However, Challenger, I mean, that's so much thrust, so much power from those solid rocket boosters. That was pretty amazing. So yeah, I'd have to say that one.
Well, yeah, I just can't imagine. I can't imagine. Well, I unfortunately can't imagine that, but I think that's obviously really, really cool. I'm very sad that I haven't had the opportunity yet to see it, but when I might visit America the US in a couple years, I definitely plan on coming down to Boca Chica to Starbase and maybe seeing whatever SN40 launch or something.
Well, it's not too bad to fly from Germany to Houston. The prices aren't horrific. That's what I would recommend, is fly into Houston. It is a 6-hour drive from there, but it would reduce your plane cost quite a bit. Tartan, Texas, it seems, has come on. Hello, and welcome to the program. Did we have a question?
Hello?
I can't hear you.
Hey, you got off quiet on me. I don't know what's happening with my phone. I got a question for you. Thanks for doing this. This is cool, by the way. I watched
Sure.
For All Mankind, and I think the thing I liked the most out of the whole For All Mankind series was the Sea Dragon. What's your take on whether that thing would have even had a chance of working? I think it was a mighty impressive idea.
Oh, unfortunately, I don't watch For All Mankind. I don't get that channel. I have so many different channels. I feel so embarrassed, but actually I have watched a little bit of For All Mankind, but I'm afraid I must plead ignorance on that. It's terrible, but I have not seen that yet.
But do you know about the Sea Dragon rocket? The concept that was
the Sea Dragon rocket.
Yeah, the concept that was that. It was something in the 1960s, a big sea-launched behemoth.
Yeah, a sea launch, right? Something launched from the water. Well, I mean, we're trying to do something very similar to that with Starship, of course, from a an oil platform rather than subsurface. I mean, subsurface always becomes much more complicated. Obviously, it's. I mean, just launching when the Soviets were first doing their ballistic missile launches, you would have to bring the submarine to the surface before you could actually make the launch. Now, ultimately, they got it to where you could do subsurface launching, but yeah, it becomes more and more complicated every time.
So
I don't know.
I'll put a video on the channel just so you can have a look at it. It was a concept around the time of when the Saturn V was in inception, And I think this thing would have delivered about 300 tons to the moon or something like that. It was built in shipyards, towed out to sea, and it was partially submerged. They'd right it vertically, then the thing would blast off them in the water. It was designed to be built in a shipyard. Yeah, it was designed to be built in a shipyard. I'll send you something on it just so you can see. It was something that I thought it was an idea. It was a missed opportunity, and I liked the idea of using existing infrastructure like shipyards to build it with cheap materials.
By all means, I think it would be interesting. I can't imagine the shock wave the subsurface shock wave that would have created, launched subsurface if that was the concept.
Hence the sea launch. Hence the sea launch.
Yeah, I mean, that would have been a colossal shock wave underneath the ocean, and the damage that it would have created to the local environment would have been pretty extensive. But I don't know. Sure, I'll definitely have a look at it. Believe me, because of the length and breadth of topics involved with space, when we're talking about things 40, 50 years ago, my knowledge begins to fade. It really does. I mean, I have a hard time keeping up with the cutting edge of what's coming out now versus things that came out 50 years ago. I know some of that, but it fades a lot, to be honest. I try to keep up with the latest developments, even though what happened before is extremely pertinent. So,
yeah. Cool.
By all means, send it over to me.
Thanks, Jens. Cheers.
Cheers. All right. And keep on going. Hello again, fan.
Hey, just a question, Angry, about the Peregrine. I'm getting kind of nervous that that's going to keep getting pushed back.
Yep. And unless the Peregrine can fit inside the fairing of of a different rocket, other than the Vulcan Centaur, I think that it's in trouble. And it's everything that's happened with ULA and the Vulcan Centaur and Blue Origin. If you had asked me a couple of months ago, I would have felt very confident that, okay, here we are. This is it. This is the one thing they have that's gonna work. Yeah, right. Sure, that was the case.
It's just such a shame. I mean, we're gonna have like 4 different rovers. I mean, the concept of all that was going to be accomplished and attempted with that lunar research. It's just such a shame that it's all, I guess, boils down to Blue Origin's BEA4, is it?
BE4
failing.
Yeah, it'll well, I mean, when it comes down to it, I think they can probably make it fit into the fairing of another, if it comes right down to the Atlas 5, something along those lines. There are fairings that ULA uses that could probably accommodate it, although it would still need to have some redesign made and such. It's going to delay it regardless. However, no announcement has officially been made that they are pushing Peregrine to 2022, and here we are almost into summer, and they haven't made an announcement. So all I can do is hold out hope, but that's about the extent of it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, we've got Michael Mars. Hello. How you doing today? Do we have audio? I show that you
Yes,
are...
okay. I hope you hear me.
I hear you now.
Hello, Angry.
Hello, how you doing today, Michael Mars?
Very well, thank you. So I have a question. So I live in Europe, and personally, I saw some videos regarding ESA and
Yes.
the Ariane rocket.
Yes.
How do you? What's your opinion on European development regarding commercial space? Because I think we are really way back in that regard. But do you see opportunities for Europe in the future for such things?
I see Great Britain aggressively moving towards commercialization of space. They have 3 spaceports opening up. As a matter of fact, my next video is about this topic. They have one opening up in Cornwall, another one in Wales, and another one in Scotland. They have quite a lot in the way of private space flight going on. And then, of course, you have organizations that are such as the ones who make the modules for the. Why am I forgetting their name? Italian company that make the modules for the Axiom space station. My mind doesn't work like it used to. What can I say? Thales Alenia. Now I remember. So I mean, they've obviously been around for a long time, and they are getting engaged with Axiom Space, which is, of course, private space flight. And then, of course, you have some German companies getting engaged in that. But still, yeah, you're right. I mean, there's not nearly enough European initiative going on to try to take advantage of the growing space market. The UK have said that they intend to grab 10% of the world's space market. But they're the only ones who have really made any sort of ambitious statement like that. And it is unfortunate. So I really hope that that something changes in that regard, and because I think there's a lot of talent in Europe, a lot of talent, and it needs to go to work in the private space flight arena. And hopefully, when the rest of Europe sees Spaceport Cornwall, Spaceport Wales, Spaceport Scotland, all 3 of those spaceports humming and putting out rocket after rocket, Virgin flight after Virgin flight, they're going to say maybe we should do the same thing. That's what I hope happens.
Yes, that would be about time, I think, because the Chinese are way ahead of us. The Americans are way ahead of us. The Russians are way ahead of us. I feel a little bit like we're becoming like a third world party or something in space. So that's shitty, to say the least.
There's no reason for it. The combined and then another positive thing, of course, is the development of the reusable boosters. Sweden being involved in that part of things, and just the whole. Well, of course, the Ariane 6. Even though that's not commercial, it involves workers and innovation from all over Europe. So the entirety of continental Europe was involved in that, but still that's much more like a NASA thing and not like a private space flight thing. So there needs to be more of the private space flight going on. And like I say, Britain seems to have embraced that, and it needs to go all the way across the continent. And it has not yet, not as much as either of us, I think, would like to see.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And we got Leon. Hello, Leon.
Hi again. Just as a follow-up on the previous question, I've seen some renders from Sierra Nevada Corporation that show Dream Chaser inside the Ariane 5, I think, and some other European rockets as well. So I was thinking, especially with the ESA tipping like in the direction of reusability, they could very well cooperate with SNC to bring at least some space, at least some of Europeans back into space.
That's true. If the Vulcan Centaur fails to deliver on its promises with the Dream Chaser, the Ariane 5 is more than capable, and so is the Ariane 6 for that matter, of carrying the Dream Chaser. And the Dream Chaser has obligations to resupply the space station, and it doesn't want to be held up by a rocket being held up by garbage blue engine, propulsion. So that being the case, they, need to do something about it. And if it means going up inside an Ariane fairing, that's exactly what they're going to do.
Yes, I especially think thinking about the last news from Sierra Nevada, and that they want to send up some small space stations, and also want to have a crewed version of the Dream Chaser out in, they said, in the next 5 years. I don't know if that's too credible, but it would be a very good opportunity to, as again, collab with the ESA and have a new space stations in collaboration with the ESA. I think that would just be a very cool thought,
Yeah.
and very much a lot of potential in it.
It could definitely happen. I mean, SNC wants to dominate the whole LEO environment by having their own space station in place by 2026, have the Dream Chaser be the exclusive provider of transportation, both in terms of cargo and personnel to that station. And if they can get a better deal out of Ariane or somebody else than they can get out of ULA, then that's who they're going to go with. Yeah, definitely. And also remember, the CEO of Sierra Nevada is Turkish, which is a member of NATO.
Oh, yeah.
So,
True, though. So maybe there is a chance.
Yeah, he's got his own motivations and also the CEO of Axiom is from Monaco. So there's plenty of connection.
There is enough connections. Yeah, I think I was I found the SNC proposals for the stations very very inspiring. So maybe if they can get a bit better deal with ESA, would be really, really cool. But let's see how the Vulcan goes, if it goes as planned.
Yeah, I certainly want it to. There's no question about that. I think the more competition you have, the better. But, if it doesn't, then somebody else needs to step up. So we'll see how it goes. Looks like we have Fan back on deck.
What's cool is that there's a whole bunch of geopolitics in play here. I love the international cooperation, but I also notice the lack of cooperation, in particularly China, and maybe the new move with China and Russia.
Yes.
Any new thoughts on that?
China and Russia, in my opinion, have made their intentions very clear that they want it to be us against the world. And frankly, they're in a position to do it. The Russians have the expertise and the Chinese have the money. And so between the two of them, they could definitely make a big splash in space, both in terms of low Earth orbit and in terms of the moon. So yeah, they could really establish themselves. There's a competitive space race going on right now that has been recognized, and I don't like the thought of it, especially if it were to turn, ugly, if it were to turn aggressive. I don't like that idea at all. But at the same time, if that's what ends up happening, that's what ends up happening. But yeah, in my opinion, that's what both Russia, and I hate losing Russia as a partner. And the reason it happened is because of the sanctions. They went into the Crimea, and then everybody replied by cutting them off economically, and they are struggling economically as a result. And the only people they have to turn to is China. and for economic support. And, was that the right thing to do? Well, I don't know, but it's turned him into an enemy. Whereas before, they were at least kind of a collaborator.
Drawing from your history, we have a situation now where, we have China being independent and Russia, as you say, chasing support. What do you think the result is, 5, 10, 15 years from now?
It's a frightening result, possibly. I mean, Putin obviously is not going to live forever, and he has not really selected a successor. So it would be interesting to see what is eventually going to happen in that regard. But yeah, I mean, we could be facing perhaps another protracted Cold War, or it could be something that turns out to be more aggressive. I mean, are the People's Republic of China just going to put up with having Taiwan right off their borders forever? Not saying that Taiwan shouldn't be. They are a flourishing democracy, and that shouldn't be taken away from them. But it's a sticking point. On the other side of things, should Russia, they have Baltic states and the Ukraine, both of which are struggling economically, shouldn't they pull them back to the nest? Well, they certainly don't want to be pulled back to the nest, but they want to take them. So these are all just going to be sticking points between all of our nations, and not a lot of it has very good results. I don't see either side backing down, and that's not a good thing.
Administrator Senator Nelson kind of alluded to the fact that we're in a new space race. Any cut on that?
I agree completely. We are in a new space race with China and Russia, and we need to get our asses in gear. This pathetic $15 million that we gave to Axiom Space to help them build their space station was ridiculous. Congress just, threw them the tiniest bone imaginable after NASA promised them a substantial cash award for winning the competition for being the first private space station. It was absurd and it was insulting. And it just indicates how far behind and how clueless Congress is in terms of, the danger and the threat that the People's Republic of China dominating low Earth orbit can be. And that will very much happen if the ISS is retired and we don't have anything to replace it on our side.
So there's a lack of interest in leveraging the commercial space ability to continue this operation, right?
Very much so. And on the commercial side, it's multinational. And if it's multinational and it's commercial, then it's also subject to international oversight. Other countries would have the right to say, okay, let's have a look at what you guys are actually doing. Are you developing biological weapons in microgravity? Are you developing new types of explosives in microgravity? Or are you doing what you say you're doing? That's easy to do with a commercial station. With a station controlled by a country exclusively, you can't do that. It's much more difficult. So that's why I don't like a station exclusively controlled by one country, whether it be China or somebody else. I think we have Starliner Glitch on deck.
Hello, Angry. Glad to talk to you.
Hey, good to talk to you.
My question is kind of a follow-on to the last one. We've seen the incompetence of NASA trying to get a shuttle replacement over the years and finally getting it after 8 years or so?
More like 11, more like 9 to 10. Yeah. It was a while.
Do you think once the ISS is retired, they'll ever get off their behinds and actually make a U.S. centric space station, or will they just throw it all to commercial space station because they really can't do much by themselves?
The American space station will be the lunar gateway. I think that our efforts to put, as far as a governmental station is concerned, is going to push further out. And I know that the Europeans are involved with the Lunar Gateway as well. But the ISS, in my opinion, is going to relocate to lunar orbit, and everything in LEO is going to be commercial stations, starting off with Axiom and Sierra Nevada. That's how I foresee things developing. I don't see an American space station or a British space station or anything like that. I think the Chinese seem to be the only ones who are really going for a nationalistic space station. And honestly, I'm not a big fan of it and never have been.
One final question. We've seen over the past 2 decades, the collaboration between the US and the Russians, and it's honestly been unprecedented and frankly kind of great the way it's gone. Do you think we'll see that kind of collaboration, whether with the Russians or the Chinese or other countries, the same way if the ISS is retired?
I think we could if the politicians would get out of the way. I think that Russian cosmonauts and astronauts from all countries are more than happy to help each other out and to work towards, man's discoveries and man's expansion out into the solar system. And I think the taikonauts are more than happy to work in conjunction. But unfortunately, the governments of these countries are not supporting it. And that is, that's the killer. And that's what's going to create a problem until Putin's gone and until the oligarchy that currently controls China, until they undergo some really radical changes. I don't see that happening anytime too soon, or unless maybe we drop the sanctions against Russia. We back down to Putin and drop the sanctions. Then maybe things could improve with them. In my opinion, that might not be a bad move because it would drive a wedge between us and the Russians and the Chinese. If we drop the sanctions, then the Russians might be more inclined to be our friends again, and we could drive a wedge in that relationship. But then again, that's for diplomats, not for me.
All right, thanks. And glad to be a supporter, and encourage anyone else listening who's not already a supporter to go ahead and sign up for their Patreon.
Thanks very much. And by the way, since a mention was made about support and that sort of thing, and I know I've already said this once, but since some of you may not have been online at the time, we have a raffle for one item of your choice, whoever wins the raffle, that will be personally signed by me from my Teespring store, and you get one raffle ticket automatically. If you want more raffle tickets, contribute to my PayPal for $1 per raffle ticket in order to increase your chances of winning. So everybody has a chance. You can increase your chances. And of course, that money goes to my ability to travel and check out some more launches. But once again, no obligation here. I'm just thrilled to be talking to you guys. Do we have anybody else on deck?
Back to SpaceX for a second. What do you think about the water landing, the semi-orbital plan there?
Probably the best idea, the safest idea. I mean, it'll be a miracle if the thing comes down in one piece, and if it can carry out a soft, quote unquote, landing on the ocean. I think that's a good way to start off. At least let's see whether or not a soft landing is going to be feasible. Let's not try to aim for a platform and then move on from there. It's a conservative thing. I would have been happy if SN15 had been able to launch a second time. The fact that it isn't, the fact that it looks like SN15 isn't going to go again concerns me a little bit about reusability. But who knows? There could be other reasons. But yeah, I think their plan is a good one.
Thanks.
Anybody else on? I'm sorry, go ahead. What was that, Fan?
Oh, I just said thanks.
Oh, no problem at all. No problem at all. Yes, Leon.
Yeah, I just recently discovered the gold mine that is the Cassini pictures and images that were taken during the, yeah, well, very, very long mission. And those images are just insane. I encourage everyone to have a look on them. It's amazing to see those. But, well, quite new to the whole aerospace, so those were very, very fascinating. And also the Huygens probe that landed on Titan. So now, looking to the future, NASA is planning the Dragonfly mission to Titan, and seeing the recent successes with Ingenuity on Mars. I think there's a lot of potential to send a lot more of those well, science-based missions to many planets, or many moons actually in the solar system, to just basically just learn more about it. And yeah, what's your take on that?
That one's very exciting. I think that one is also extremely risky, simply because we don't have a full understanding of the weather on Titan. Since Titan's atmosphere is so incredibly dense, can't be certain as to how all of the air patterns and everything and the weather patterns work on a regular basis, seasonal basis, etc. And anything that's in the air, how that's going to be impacted. It was an amazing achievement of technology on the part of the ESA to get the Huygens probe to land successfully and safely on the surface of Titan, when they had no idea what was underneath what they were going to be landing on. Yeah, that was, I would say that's probably the most impressive probe landing that has ever been carried out, because didn't have a clue what we were going to be landing on. In fact, the Huygens was even set up to float if it happened to land on a lake. So yeah, if anybody can do it, it's certainly the people who have planned these missions in the past. And Titan, whatever mission is sent to Titan, we really need to have a lot on board to detect the presence of methanogenic life, because there was a prediction made on the part of some very well-known and very respected exobiologists who predicted the presence of certain elements, certain quantities, if there were methanogenic life, that is, creatures that inhale hydrogen, exhale methane. If they were indeed there, then these elements should be here in this quantity. And it was later discovered that that was the case, exactly as they predicted. But of course, instead of saying that, wow, I think we've detected methanogenic life, instead the reaction was, well, probably our instruments were inaccurate or something. That just seems to be the go-to, let's say that there's nothing there and move on. But whatever we send to Titan really has to have a good instrument pack for finding methanogenic life.
All right, yeah, well, I think that too. The methane lakes surely look very, very interesting. Also, I think personally, I'm very, very interested in seeing what's beneath Europa's ice, and maybe seeing if there really are those oceans there, and maybe there could be aquatic life there. So yeah, then I think there's a lot of potential with these kind of
There's
missions.
no reason why there wouldn't be. They've been there for billions of years. They've had as long of a time for things to develop and evolve in those oceans, with the salts and the heat and everything else that's necessary to produce evolution. They've been there as long as is necessary to produce multicellular life. So we will see. We will see just how easy it is to produce multicellular life with just regular evolutionary process. Okay, Michael Mars, back on deck.
Yes.
Ooh, we lost you. Now Fan's back on. but we lost Michael Mars.
I'll be brief so Michael can get back on. You got any
Okay.
interviews lined up?
Yes, but I cannot disclose with whom. I have 2 interviews lined up. And given the fact that they are not 100% confirmed, I cannot reveal with whom. One of them is with somebody I've interviewed before. One is somebody brand new. So
Cool.
stay tuned. It's coming soon.
I understand. Thank you.
No problem. Okay, we have, I think, Static Fire Girl, or no, Michael Mars. Michael Mars. Hello again.
Hello. I have another question. When because of the contracts that Elon Musk appropriated for the moon mission, aren't you scared that he will become complacent? Because
Boy, I hope he doesn't. But no, please go on.
because of he's like a person who always thrives to compete, and if there's not so much competition, then perhaps things will slow down, and that would be also really bad, I think.
Well, I think he pushes himself tremendously when it comes to Mars. I mean, nobody wants to go to Mars except him, at least not as fast as he wants to go to Mars. So I think he has a lot of self-motivation when it comes to Mars. But yeah, I mean, the moon, with there only being 1 participant, I have always felt that there needs to be 2 participants. Unfortunately, the government is going about it the wrong way, and they're going to force the whole thing down people's throats. And of course, when they force things down people's throats, they're going to go back to NASA's assessment, and Blue Origin came in number 2. So Blue Origin will be the second competitor, which is as good as having no competitor at all. And what worries me is that, well, Blue Origin may not be able to finish it, but with the help of the other 2 companies working with them, who knows, they may be able to get their lander done first. If they do, it could be a huge disaster because that thing is terribly designed. So I would rather have just SpaceX than SpaceX and them. But if it's opened up to somebody else, obviously Dynetics, or maybe somebody else, then yeah, I am all in favor of competition all the way to the end. It drives everybody. It obviously worked with Commercial Crew. It worked with that, and it will work with this.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I think we have Static Fire Gal on deck.
Oh, Angry, it's nice to be here and talk to you live.
Oh, very nice to talk to you. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. I just have a
Lovely.
question, and this is what I'm really angry about. What do you think about the Chinese uncontrolled boosters crashing randomly into countries? I know they should be held responsible to their booster, and is there any agency that would stop China from doing this?
The answer is no. China can do whatever they want, and nobody's going to be able to do anything about it. The People's Republic of China wields so much power economically. They control so much of the world's debt that nobody can really put any effective pressure on them. It is highly irresponsible. Perhaps if someday they kill somebody with one of these boosters, maybe they'll do something then. But my suspicion is that they'll just blame the death on somebody else. They'll say it was a meteorite or something like that. So yeah, it really makes me angry too. They're taking the easy way out, the less safe way out. But I mean, they've destroyed property belonging to their own citizens in the process of launching rockets from deep inside their country for the sake of secrecy, and obviously haven't cared about that. So yeah, sadly, I wish I could say something else, But unless there's a change in their leadership, I don't see them changing their behavior. The opinion of the world does not seem to matter to the government of the Chinese. I think it matters to the Chinese people. I just don't think it matters to their government. They could really care less. And unfortunately, it's hard to really hold anything over them. They've got way too much economic power, and they control too much of the world's debt. So you can't really pressure them with sanctions. So not much you can do except militarily, which would be catastrophic. So yeah, unfortunately, it's just not much we can do except let them continue to be irresponsible.
That's pretty insane. Okay, thanks,
Yep.
Angry.
Yeah, you're quite welcome. Okay. Where's the text chat? I'm sorry, I'm not seeing it. I see. Yeah, I am sorry. I would have done that right off the bat if I'd seen that. Okay. Here's the sea dragon. Do I think Sierra Nevada would consider using the Falcon 9 if Vulcan is delayed too long? First of all, can I be heard when I jump off of the stage? I think I can, right? Everybody can hear me okay if I do that. So I think under the ask your questions part right here, I believe I can see things. Yeah, okay. So yeah, do I think Sierra Nevada would consider using Falcon 9 if Vulcan is delayed too long? Perhaps, but unlikely, because the Falcon 9's fairing cannot safely contain the Dream Chaser, and the Dream Chaser could suffer damage from a small piece of debris or something heading up through the atmosphere. And I think they would feel a lot safer if they are inside of fairing. And neither the Falcon 9 nor the current Falcon Heavy fairing can accommodate Dream Chaser. So any other questions there? Given that Starlink satellites apparently have an estimated 11 kilometers per second of delta V on board with Krypton thrusts, any chance that they might just migrate some of them to Mars from Earth constellations when they have people there? That's an interesting question. Yeah, why not? I think they have a need for them there anyway, and they're going to have a whole lot of those satellites. So by all means, go ahead and do that. I think that would be a very intriguing solution, to say the least. So yeah, very, very excited about that. And excuse me, I'm jumping kind of back and forth in between. I think we have Leon on right now, actually, as well.
Yeah, so while we are talking about SpaceX, about Starship, besides the Lunar and Mars version, which obviously have, well, a lot of potential to do very, very big things, what else do you think might be a big field where Starship could be a big, a huge deal breaker in that regard, regarding
What?
maybe like space debris, bringing debris back down, or bringing space stations up.
Given Starship's colossal fairing, I think that gathering up huge amounts of space debris is one of its most important functions. Also, deploying orbital solar arrays. It can deploy huge solar arrays. I've actually done some videos about this topic, and Starship could make the difference in terms of providing power for the planet using solar energy, kind of turning us into a Kardashev level 1 civilization. So I think that that would be one of the most important things that we could do, without question. I'm checking up here. We are checking just on some last questions that are being asked, since we're about 54, 55 minutes into things. And once again, and I know I've said this a million times, I'll say it one more time, and this is for recorded also, because I'm going to check it at the end of the day. The prize that's been being given out in the raffle. Everybody I see here in this group has a raffle ticket in the drawing. However, if you want more raffle tickets, go ahead and make your contribution through PayPal, and you get one raffle ticket per dollar, to increase your chances. And it is an item of your choice, personally signed by me, something I've never done. That's the last time I'm going to mention that, but I just thought I would put it in there one more time regardless. You guys have done so much to support me already. So thank you so much for everything that you've done one way or the other. It matters so much to me. Thank you. Like I say, my channel would be dead without you. Okay. The rumor that changing from, oh yes, that the whole thing about steel, the whole thing about Blue Origin going to stainless steel, there's no confirmation on that, and some people are saying it's debunked. I'm staying on top of this, but I have my doubts. Blue Origin would put themselves hopelessly behind if they made such a radical change in the type of materials that they're using. I think that that would be disastrous for them. How long before the Kessler effect happens? It could happen tomorrow. It could happen anytime, guys. And the more satellites we put up, the more likely it is. It is statistically inevitable. That doesn't mean that it's going to happen in 5 years or 5 days or 10 years. But the fact of the matter is, the more times you roll the dice, the more times you roll the dice in Vegas, the more times you have a chance of rolling snake eyes 6 straight times. Maybe it's impossible. Maybe it seems impossible to roll snake eyes 6 straight times. But you know what? It does happen every now and then. And when it does, it can be disastrous. And so, you know, something like that could also happen with us. Missed the start. If the question is off limits, what do I see with the continued attacks on YouTube creators by other YouTube parties, and what I think YouTube should do about these attempts to stifle creativity? Don't stifle creativity. There should be other platforms. There should be other ways for folks to express themselves. So I am, you know, of course, more than happy to be a part of that. Actually, YouTube, of course, is my primary platform. They've been very good to me, but that doesn't mean they should have a monopoly. I do not believe in monopolies, period. And that's just how it is. So I'm checking to make sure I've got everybody covered. Bear with me just one moment. I want to make sure nobody gets left out. It has been wonderful chatting with everybody today. So yeah, this has been a great thing. I do intend to do this again, and I intend to make this a regular thing. So until we have an environment where we can all get together and meet face to face. And by the way, I have this in mind. I am planning a fan get together that may be a little bit different than other folks do when it comes to fan get togethers. And I'm just going to leave you with that. But until we have that happen, and until all of us get a chance to actually interact face to face, maybe share a few drinks or whatever it is that you would prefer, then I urge all of you to stay angry about space.